Hello everyone, this is Aryan Thakkar, your coach and mentor, and welcome back to my YouTube channel on Aryan Tutorials, where in this video I'll be taking up your ISC Class 12's Prism's last short story, which is Indigo by Satyajit Ray. Before I get started, I want to request you that if you haven't read the text of this particular piece, then immediately stop this video, take out your textbook, go through the text, and then come back to this detailed, insightful revision on Indigo written by Satyajit Kumar Ray. Take care. So let's get started. Now, Indigo by Satyajit is basically a haunting journey through colonial guilt. To tell you about this piece of writing, the story is about Aniruddha Bose, who is the main protagonist, his experience where he undergoes metamorphosis. Now, it is a process of basically transitioning of a person from one thing to another, or rather being possessed by somebody else's experience, and you are able to feel that experience of the other person. That is what metamorphosis means. Take care. Satyajit Ray's Indigo masterfully blends supernatural horror with historical conscience, that is experience, transforming a simple road journey into a chilling confrontation with India's colonial past. The story follows Aniruddha Bose, a 29-year-old Kolkata resident who becomes trapped in a time-wrapped nightmare. Please use this in your answer. He gets trapped due to metamorphosis experience, where he gets trapped in a time loop like in the past, that forces him to witness or experience and embody, like physically experience, a brutal legacy of British indigo planters through psychological terror and moral reckoning. Reckoning is basically estimation. Ray creates a narrative, a piece of writing where the past refuses to remain buried or hidden. Surfacing means coming out on the layer through possession to expose the violence that stained India's soil century ago. Take care. The blood of the past, which is mixed in India's soil, which was mixed in India's soil, and it still continue to haunt that particular place. That is what the story is about. Now, coming to the protagonists, that is Aniruddha's fateful journey. First of all, the story begins like the restless scholar Aniruddha Bose, who was an unmarried man living alone all by himself. He was a bachelor in Kolkata who worked in merchant firm while nurturing his passion for creative writing. Recently immersed in research, like deeply delved into research work about indigo cultivation and the indigo revolt, he considers himself an authority on the British exploitation. That he had read so much about indigo plantation and its historical background that he had gained mastery onto it. Then there is an escape from monotony. Now, it is his boredom which clutches him, and therefore he decides to take a break from his mundane life. Tired of suffocating city life, Aniruddha accepts his childhood friend Pramod's invitation to visit Dumka. On the 27th April, he begins his journey in his ambassador car, seeking the clear blue skies and peace of the countryside. And then all of a sudden, the storm strikes. Delays and long drive leave him traveling late into the evening. And then sudden nor'wester, which is known as the Kal Baisakhi storm, hits with fury with its rage, causing two punctures, that is flat tires, that strand him on a deserted, isolated road in a complete darkness, all alone. Take care. Wrong turn and no return. Then a Punjabi lorry driver delivers a devastating news, which was like a thunderclap to his ears, that Aniruddha has taken the wrong road and there is no repair shop nearby. Helpless and isolated, he spots a faint light in the distance, his only hope to escape that particular night, or to just get past that particular night. There comes your dark bungalow, which is a resemblance of the portrayal to the past. Following the light, Aniruddha reaches a humble hut where the caretaker named Sukhan Ram offers him food and direction to a nearby dark bungalow. This seemingly ordinary, it seemed very ordinary sort of a bungalow, Rest house holds a dark secret. It was originally an Englishman's and indigo planter's mansion from the colonial era. The dark bungalow functioned as a liminal space, like, a limited space where time collapses, becoming a time capsule. Now, this is symbolic of this dark bungalow. Okay? It acts as a time capsule which will make Aniruddha undergo an experience of the past. So it becomes a time capsule that bridges 1968 with that of 1868. Places of historical injustice. Ray Places of historical injustice, Ray suggests, retain a psychological memory that can resurface under the right conditions. Exhausted and relieved to find shelter, Aniruddha settles in for the night, unaware that he is about to experience history not as an observer but as a participant, as if he himself was actively reliving that history. So the purpose of this dark bungalow serves as a temporary gateway, a portal which makes him undergo an experience into a different era altogether, space where the past and present intersect, and psychological memory. It retains the imprints of the colonial violence. It echoes the imprint of the colonial violence in the past. Okay? And then comes the terrifying transformation. While resting, while sleeping at night, Aniruddha awakens to the scratching sounds and the growl of Sahib's hound, that is the Englishman's hound. Hound, basically, it's a breed of dog. His watch, suitcase, and torch have mysteriously disappeared all of a sudden, and then he notices shocking changes about himself. His clothes, his surroundings, and even his voice have transformed. Looking into the mirror, he finds himself as a 19th century British indigo planter. His watch, suitcase, torch, everything vanishes without any explanation, leaving him disoriented, all baffled, take it, all confused. His clothes, appearance, and voice undergo a complete and unsettling alteration. There was a new identity. When he looked himself into the mirror, he found that his not only his materials and his clothes, but he himself had transitioned and transformed into a different person altogether. So a new identity is revealed in the mirror, that is of a 19th century British planter, and he experiences terrifying loss of control as his body all of a sudden, although he is aware, mindfully he is aware, but then his body is not in his own control. That is what metamorphosis means, where you are possessed yet you are aware that what is happening with you. Take care. So his body starts operating independently, where everything was subservient to someone, to some other being. Subservient is basically as if it was in servile behavior, as if although your mind did not want to perform those things, but still it was not under your control and your body kept doing the things. That too, as if you are a puppet to somebody else and somebody else is possessing you and making you do things. Take it, that is subservient. The real horror is not in the storm or the bungalow, it is the complete loss of control. His limbs, his legs start moving on their own. His voice changes, his identity is hijacked. Please use this in your answer, hijacked. And this creates a terror through helplessness, which is the strongest form of horror. When you are unable to do anything or regain back your self control, that is the biggest form of horror which Aniruddha experienced. And then comes the diary wala part. An unknown force forces Aniruddha to write in a diary dated 27th April 1868, exactly 100 years before his arrival. Through this possessed hand, the British indigo planter confesses his sins. अपने पापों को वो लिखता है अपने खुद के जर्नल में, अपने डायरी में, where people in my country are well aware of my evil deeds. The planter acknowledges his own exploitation and cruelty towards his native. It is said, now whatever you sow, so shall you reap. Either you directly do it or through somebody else's experience, and that is what happens. Take it. Fear of death, dying from malaria, the planter faces his mortality with terror, knowing his sins will follow him beyond the grave. And it manifested through Aniruddha, who was a master of indigo plantation and its historical context. Maybe that Englishman, that planter, chose Aniruddha to repent for his sins what he had committed in the past. So जो आप पाप किए होते हैं वो आपके साथ चलता है, whether you are alive or you are not there, in the form of soul as well. You have to make amends for your sin. ठीक है? And worry of Rex. Now Rex was that English planter का dog. He was a hound. And Rex, I'm really worried about Rex, my dog. His only genuine concern is for the loyal companion who may be killed after his death, who might get killed after his death, because the villagers would just go and kill the dog to death. ठीक है? So the diary, that writing in that journal, in that diary, it becomes a bridge between the past and present, where Aniruddha actually experiences what had happened in the past actively through Englishman's own experience, revealing how colonial guilt transcends, surpasses time. Ray uses possession as a narrative strategy to externalize this buried conscience. Basically, through this diary, he is able to surface, bring it to the forefront of Englishman's experience through Aniruddha's reliving those moments, forcing the modern Indian reader to witness history from inside the colonial's decaying mind. Rex over here, Rex is basically a symbol of innocence and tragedy. English planter, in an attempt to protect Rex, he himself had shot him through his own gun. So Rex, the planter's devoted hound, it's a breed of dog, emerges as the most innocent and tragic figure in the story. His unwavering loyalty stands in stark contrast to his master's cruelty, making him the emotional anchor of the narrative. In the story, most chilling climax comes when the planter calls Rex to him and shoots the faithful dog before bolting the door and turning the gun on himself. This horrifying act reveals how colonial brutality is so deep that it consumes even the loyalty and the love. ठीक है? Sometimes that thirst of power or desire to rule over is so deeply, it is so deeply and deceptively corrupt that it not just only consumes the person, it not just consumes loyalty, even the person whom you love, you are compelled to maybe take brutal steps against that person. And that is what the chilling and the climax part of the story is. Coming to the themes of Indigo, the primary core theme is colonial exploitation on the part of indigo plantation planters, how Britishers exploited the Indian indigo cultivators. British indigo planters tortured villagers, turning indigo into a symbol of economic slavery and institutionalized cruelty. There is a guilt and retribution, compensation for what you had done in the past. The planters' confession and suicide become forms of self punishment, showing how greed ultimately destroys the oppressor. ठीक है? And then there is a supernatural memory. The past returns through possession, that is metamorphosis, proving that history cannot be erased. इतिहास के पन्नों को बदला नहीं जा सकता है. It survives in spaces, in silence, and in scars as well. ठीक है? Then there is a loss of identity on the part of Aniruddha. Aniruddha's identity is overwritten, highlighting psychological terror, mind aware, and body being controlled by the Englishman's maybe possession, through his possession. Then there is a human helplessness, stranded road, storm, silence. The protagonist becomes small against the nature and fate. ठीक है? Nature is more dominating. We cannot control nature. And then nature's menace. Menace is basically threat. Nature appears to be threatening. The nor'wester, that is Karl Baisaki storm, mirrors chaos, becoming the gate to supernatural disruption. At the same time, it elevates the mood of readers. The purpose of that storm and rain is basically to uplift that drama, to make that horror feel more eerie and spooky, and to give you chills in your bones while reading. Okay? And then there is a psychological horror over physical terror. Ray's genius lies in creating horror through psychological helplessness rather than monster or gore. The supernatural serves not as a cheap thrills but as a moral device, a way to force confrontation with historical injustice. So there is isolation, there is disorientation, there is possession, and there is forced witness. At the same time, there is violence in the story. These are the five elements which makes Indigo a masterfully blended, perfect horror yet psychological projection of guilt sort of a short story. ठीक है. The terror originates from Aniruddha being fully conscious while completely powerless. That is through his metamorphosis. He watches his own hand pulling the trigger, experiencing somebody else's guilt and becoming a vessel, a bartan for the historical violence. Basically, container for somebody else's experience. ठीक है. This creates a horror far more profound, deep than any ghost which is present, and the horror of being forced to embody the very oppression he had studied from the safe distance to get the first hand experience of what he had been studying for so long. Okay? And then all of a sudden, Aniruddha, in an ambiguous means, in a very absurd way, in an abnormal way, he just wakes up the next morning and he finds himself to be normal. So Aniruddha wakes up the next morning of 28th April as himself, as he was. Sukhan Raman informs him that his car had been repaired and everything appears normal, as if the night's horror were merely a dream, as if it were a nightmare. Yet the story ends with a haunting question. Would anyone believe the experience I had on the 100th death anniversary of an Indigo tax lord, Englishman, English planter's own experience? This open ending, that is cliffhanger, is Ray's master stroke. By refusing to confirm or deny the supernatural event, he leaves readers disturbed and reflective. This ambiguity, incompleteness makes the horror linger. Was it possession? Was it hallucination or something else entirely? Take it, the date confession and the unanswered question and the lasting impact. In the end, the story ends with ambiguity, leaving reader disturbed and reflective. More importantly, the question forces us to confront our own relationship with history, whether supernatural or not. Aniruddha has experienced something deep, a visceral understanding, visceral is intuitive understanding of colonial violence that no book could provide him. Take care. Indigo is not merely a ghost story but a powerful critique of the colonial exploitation. The dark bungalow becomes a space where time collapses, it sinks, proving that places of injustice retain psychological memory and refusing to fade. And moral collapse, the planter is shown not as a powerful but as a sick, isolated, mentally decaying, tortured, crushed by his own self guilt. Greed ultimately destroys the oppressor too, the person who preaches those corrupt practices, okay, or who exercises that. And my concluding line would be Indigo stands as a reminder that history is never dead. It survives in spaces, in silence, and in scars. The past resurfaces, it comes on the surface not as a memory but as a direct lived experience, and the indigo plantation becomes a symbol of institutionalized cruelty that in the modern contemporary world where materialism has been given so much of importance, maybe 100 years back that same thing had happened and it came with grief which had to be retributed after 100 years. The sin had to be amended post 100 years. Take care. So institutionalized cruelty that stained not just cloth but soul. And in the end, we are left with the unsettling truth that some horrors cannot be forgotten. They can only be confronted one haunted night at a time. ठीक है? And with this, we come to the end of Indigo by Satyajit Ray. I hope this helps, and please make a note of the important words and phrases which I have used in this video so that you'll be able to incorporate it in your answer to uplift, to level up your answer writing style, and it will help you to fetch a perfect 5 on 5 or a 10 on 10. So with this, I come to the end of the video. I hope you're liking my explanation and the way I'm teaching. If you are, then please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I hope you're having a gala time preparing for your examination. Keep smiling, keep studying. I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Bye-bye.